How will the new norm impact telcos as they continue their network transformation journeys? And will there now be greater interest in open and disaggregated network solutions for 5G, such as open and virtual RAN? Well, joining me now to explain how Red Hat is helping guide its telco customers in North America is Gino Grano, Managing Senior Director at Red Hat. Gino, good to see you. Thank you for joining us on the programme.
Thank you for having me.
Gino, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry was putting in place the building blocks for a more open telecoms network. Are solutions such as Open RAN now a viable alternative and a viable strategy for telcos?
So, Guy, you're absolutely correct. The industry has been going down this journey for a long time. The disaggregation of the network has been a journey that has been taking place for the last 5, 6, 7 years, depending on some of the early adopters and how quickly that they've gone through. And in that process, we've moved from, virtual network functions to now the focus on the cloudification, right, of the network. And the first area of focus of that cloudification has been the wireless infrastructure, right? And people have been focused on cloudifying the core, right? And those are very viable solutions that are happening. And as we're moving through and we're getting initial deployments of cloud native core wireless infrastructure, people are starting to focus on the wireless RAN, right? They are leveraging things like O-RAN and looking at the disaggregation of that last mile in the radio network, and really looking to try to find ways of having best of breed, lower cost infrastructure that they can deploy.
As you mentioned, there's a corresponding evolution in the core network technology. If we look towards NFV, a lot of investment being put into NFV. NFV is now getting pushed towards cloud native, the cloud native world. How far along this journey are the North American telcos, and what are their main challenges?
So the evolution to cloudification is something that every major telco is looking at, right? The reality is that these are things that they are doing and trying to figure out how they transition from their virtual environment to that they have now to one that is cloud native, right? A lot of the challenges that they have is many of these have multiple tens of thousands of nodes that they're working on, right? And how do they transition this to their new infrastructure? And more importantly, how do you work with your ecosystem partners to be able to ensure that you have seamless, stable, and reliant type of infrastructure in this model?
And does this move to cloud native impact their internal processes, people and processes? How are they managing this?
That's a great question, Guy. It's when I think about a lot of our engagements with our customers and they start going down the journey, inevitably it always starts about the technology, right? And everybody's focused on the technology and let's worry about trying to solve the technology. As you get further and further down the journey, what you realize is, while it is the technology is an important piece of this, it's the people in the process that's actually much more important in getting that right. You need to look at how you're doing business. You need to look at how you're deploying. You need to look at how your organizations are interacting. And many times what our customers are finding is you really need to change the processes and the people. And that's generally a lot harder to do than the technologies, right? So many times what starts off as a simple, how do I adopt a cloud native piece of technology, ends up into a inward looking, let's look at our processes, let's look at the workflow, how do we re-engineer it, how do we ensure we have the right skill sets, how do we ensure we have a cross collaboration interaction between the various groups that typically would touch the technology in various different silos and now have to collaborate as one uniform entity.
There's a lot of factors at play at the moment for telcos to deal with. We've got the post-pandemic new normal, we've got the disaggregated network, we've got cloud native. What has been and what is the impact on the telecoms ecosystem, all the way through to from procurement to implementation?
The ecosystem has not been without significant impact, as you say, right? Everyone on the ecosystem is feeling the need to refactor, repurpose, and really modernize their applications for the customers. Right, they're recognizing this trend. Operators are moving down this cloud native approach, really trying to lower their overall costs, make their networks much more manageable. And the ecosystems are rapidly trying to adjust and adapt and follow them with that. So there's a lot of investment that's happening within the ecosystem. And this is an ecosystem that is not simply limited to the telecom ecosystem, right? Because of what's happening in 5G and because of what's happening at the edge, this is impacting the ecosystem across various industries. So everybody is looking at how do you enable functionality at the edge? How do you take advantage of some of the real-time capabilities and the proximity to the end users that this brings and really help customers enable them, right? From an operator standpoint, many of these folks are looking at this aggregation as an opportunity to drive the cost lower, right? So when you think about what a lot of the procurement teams are doing, they are using the adoption of this new infrastructure, right? This transition in the marketplace, really to try to find a better balance for their cost components.
Well, Gino, a pleasure as always. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here.